this month of August, we have been weaving a spiritual tapestry. Even though we had two guest speakers also in this month of August, they helped weave their threads into this tapestry of spirituality that we are now moving into. And I like it so much, we're going to do it one more week next. I'm going to bring it into, Dennis, you should know that. I'm bringing it into September, so one more week of it. So I once heard of a church, and this actually is true, that the ushers would stand at that door, and when the preacher stood up to give his message, they would lock the doors. So nobody would get out. It's not even a joke, right? It's true. Perhaps we should do that this morning, maybe, because we never do that. Because I've been guided to talk about the subject that we rarely talk about in New Thought. Not too often. And I'm thinking that, just in case you're sitting near the door and you want to run out, we won't lock the doors, though. But it's the topic which is sin. So we're going to be talking about sin today from a religious science, New Thought perspective. Okay? And so that you all know what that really means, here are the words straight from the glossary of Ernest Holmes in his Science of Mind textbook. This is what he wrote. We have tried to show that there is no sin but a mistake, and no punishment but a consequence. The law of cause and effect. Sin is merely missing the mark. God does not punish sin. As we correct our mistakes, we forgive, as the reading said, we forgive our own sins. Sin is merely missing the mark. And that's the name of today's talk. So take the original meaning of the word from the sport of archery. That's where it comes from. To sin literally, though, means to miss that bullseye. So this morning we're going to explore what that really means, that whole concept, and how we can avoid sinning. How we can no longer miss the mark, and what the mark really means. But rather how we can hit the bullseye in life. You want to hit the bullseye in life?
Yes.
Yes! So we got to know what the bullseye is before we hit it, right? So the other day, I don't do this too often, but I was listening to a radio station, and one of the songs that I thought was interesting that it came on was titled, "Heaven is Just a Sin Away." Right. So there are no coincidences, right, as we know in life. So I thought, well, that's a pretty interesting title, and I thought it was pretty true, because really heaven is just one thought away. One thought. It's the thoughts that keep us out of that heaven, which is within. Of course, we know that. So right here, right now, just one thought away. The thought that we are separate. This is the biggest thought that mankind has. The thought that we are separate in nature from God. Here's your acronym, S-I-N. Separate in nature. And if I want to make it song, we could get it from God, But we're doing S-I-N, separate in nature. That is the biggest thought that we would like to heal. And that's why we come here together, to be in this atmosphere of this teaching, where we teach that there is only one life, and that life we are, each and every one of us, a part of. Each and every one, no exceptions. And when we believe that we are separate in nature from God, that's when we miss the mark that we're speaking of. We don't hit the bullseye. We sin, separate in nature. So we believe in separation. So one, all the mystics have known that the universe has to be one. And Jesus said it. He who hath seen me hath seen the Father. The Bhagavad Gita, the ancient Hindu scripture. I love this. This is so beautiful. God is but an embryo within us. Its only desire is to be born. Isn't that beautiful? God is but an embryo within us. Its only desire is to be born. That's what's within us. That's how powerful we are. And again, Ernest Holmes writes, when we know our oneness with God and law, what a burden is removed. If we think of ourselves as being separate from the universe, we shall be limited by the thought, for it is a belief in separation from God which binds and limits. We are bound by nothing except belief. We are bound by nothing except our own beliefs. All of our challenges, all of our strifes, all of our woes, all of our uncertainties, all of our worries, all of these things stem from one thing, our belief that we are separate in nature from God. Really, they all come from that. Because when we truly are able to deepen into that place where we know that God is truly the source of all of our good in every form that there is, when we can get to that place of truly knowing it, and that's above faith, that's a knowing, that's when everything is healed. That's when we are released from all sin. Anyway, sin is missing the mark. So what is the mark that we're talking about? What is the mark, the bullseye? What could that be? The mark consists of our God-given talents, gifts, dreams, desires that are implanted within each and every one of us. As we are birthed into this life, we have within us our own personal dreams and desires. And that's when we are being our authentic self, living from that place of our authenticity. When we recognize and realize and stop pushing away what that inner urging is asking us to do, to express. The embryo, remember, to be born. That is being born again, to recognize the truth, that love that's within each and every one of us. When we don't live from our authentic self, we're separate in nature. That's when we sin. If we have a mark, which is our goal or our dream, our aspiration or our vision, we all have something that we really, a vision for ourselves, make it clear, work on it, make it clear. Then not trying for it or giving up on it is a big one. Giving up on our dream is a sin. Separate in nature, it is a sin. Sin is not even making the mistakes on the way there. We're all going to make mistakes. That's how we learn. Sin is not even trying to point in any kind of a direction of the mark. Jesus said, you can do this and more. Jesus said, you can do this and more. Do we believe that? So the degree to which our belief gets to, we can really understand what that belief is. That is our connection, our realization that we are a part of this one life. How beautiful. How beautiful when we know. You would say God has our back. God has everything because we're all part of this God nature. We are all part of it. So the mark has been set, yet we shrink back. A lot of the times we shrink back and think only Jesus and very high mystics can, or the blessed chosen ones can accomplish these things, these miracles, these things. Only a certain few. When in fact each and every one of us is capable of it, and the only thing holding us back is our belief that we're not. When we move out of that belief in being separate in nature from God, from good, God is good, there is nothing to fear. There is no confusion. God does not worry. You think God worries? I don't want to belong to a worried God. No. God doesn't worry about the future. Oh, what am I going to create next? I don't know. I mean, can you imagine? So why worry, little flock, if it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom? Feel that vibration. I don't know what it is, but it's Part of the frequency of life itself, moving through us, right? It's time we move out of this belief. When we realize, you don't have to look at him, look at me. I lost everyone. Whoa! So we're moving out of that belief, just knowing that there's a power for good and that we are a part of it. We are the light. Do you know who you are? We sang it last week, if you remember. You are the face of God. Yeah, thank you. You are the hands. You are the heart. You are the voice of spirit on earth. This is Karen Drucker, to quote her. To continue that and who you are and all that you do is a blessing to the world. That's all Karen Drucker. It's beautiful. So it's time to move. It's time to move out of this belief in separation and claim the magnificence that we are. Course in Miracles says, if you knew who walked beside you, you would have nothing to fear. If we could get to that point, as I said, of absolute belief in that statement, life would be so much easier, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I know it would be for me as I continue also with you to practice these teachings and to continuously deepen my understanding of them. And I know that most of you, you wouldn't even be here if that were not part of your intention. If you want to hit the bullseye, remember who you are. Tap into that authentic self, your innate dreams, your desires, your visions, your passions, your gifts. Tap into it. Connect with it. And just do it. Do it. Only you. This is the beauty of it. Only you have those particular dreams and that particular vision. Only you have that. Each one is unique. God does not repeat itself, right? God does not. And here's a wonderful affirmation for when you're worried about the future, for when you're fretting over a decision, for when you are afraid to let your beautiful light shine. This is also from the Course in Miracles. I am the light of the world. That is my only function. That is why I am here. So if we just say, I am the light of the world, in the middle of feeling any kind of disconnect, worry, any of that stuff, fear, I am the light of the world, we transmute that whole fear thing. Because the law is always responding to what we think and what we say and what we feel. And then we have the ignorance of the law. So the ignorance of the law, and this is the quote from Ernest Holmes a moment ago, when we know our oneness with God and law, what a great burden is removed. I of myself can do nothing, right? It is the Father within that doeth the work. I of myself, that's surrender. We sin, we miss the mark when we ignore the fact that we are one with an immutable law, which is the process through which God works in and through us. Remember, this power is working in and through us. Think of yourself as this channel. Just allow this high power, spirit, to have its way. Ignorance of, here's some man-made laws. Ignorance of man-made laws. They work whether we know them or not. We're not exempt from them. So if we break the law, even if we don't know, so let's say the speed limit. We're driving 45 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone, but we didn't see the sign. Doesn't make a difference if a police officer pulls you over and says you're speeding. So ignorance of the law excuses no one. Choice, consequence. Ignorance of, that's man-made laws. So ignorance of physical laws are the same. Gravity works the same for everyone. If you throw a ball up in the air, it's going to come down. You don't have to know why. The law works automatically. You don't have to know how it works or why it works. If you throw a ball in the air, it's going to fall down. So ignorance of spiritual laws, which is what we talk about, is no different. It's no different. Just because we aren't aware that we are creating our lives through our thinking and our feelings and our emotions and our words doesn't make it any better. It was still going to enjoy or not the consequences of our choice. Ernest Holmes says, at all times, we are either drawing things to us or pushing them away. In the average individual, this process goes on without his even knowing it. But ignorance of the law does not change its results. Does not change its results. We live in mind, and it can return to us only what we think into it. No matter what we do, law will always demonstrate. It will always demonstrate. This is Holmes. If we are thinking of ourselves as poor and needy, then mind, the law in God, mind, has no choice but to return what we thought into it. It is done unto you as you believe. New thought was what Jesus was preaching. New thought. That's why Joel Osteen is so big, because he is preaching Christianity from a new thought perspective. So the Christians can go and feel like they're not sinning, because they still believe in sin. The human sin, not what we're talking about here. They believe in heaven and hell kind of sin, which we don't believe in here. So do you believe that you are a beautiful, worthy child of this divine creative source of all good? Do you really believe it? Because if you believe it, then you live. You're entitled to live a life well lived. You're entitled to it. And it doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. It can be the smallest thing. Just the gratitude in our hearts allows us to feel like this is a life well lived. Serve. Give away. Give away. That will uplift your vibration. So you're entitled to all the happiness that you desire. Just know that. So how many of us limit ourselves? Miss the mark. How many of us limit ourselves? Misuse the law, there you go, by placing two little words, I can't, in front of statements. I can't make it. I can't imagine where my car keys are. One of my biggest sins. I can't accomplish that dream. I can't do it. The I can't syndrome is a very powerful one for keeping us feeling separate from God and from holding us back from all sorts of good things in our lives. If you find yourself in the I can't syndrome, I want to suggest to you that you do for yourself what this fourth grade, I have a little story here, what this fourth grade teacher did in a small town in Michigan. Very cool. Several years ago, several years ago. This is really cool. She asked that every one of these students, good for all you teachers in the room, maybe you can conduct this in your classroom. She asked that every student get out a piece of paper and write on the top, I can't, and then make a list underneath of all the things that they felt they couldn't do. Some of the statements that appeared to us were like, I can't kick the soccer ball to second base. I can't do long division with more than 3 numbers. I can't eat only 1 cookie. So these is part of this list that these children were making. So even the teacher wrote her list of I can't. So the time to write was up, and everybody came forward to the front of the room with their papers, and she had them fold them in half and put them in a shoebox that she had on her desk. Then the entire class marched out to the backyard. She stopped at the janitor's room, and she got a shovel. And they went out back, and she dug a hole in the ground, 3-foot hole in the ground. And once the hole was dug, the teacher placed the shoebox in it and covered it with the dirt. At this point, the teacher announced, boys and girls, please join hands and bow your heads. And then she said, friends, we are gathered here today to honor the memory of I can't. While he was with us on this earth, he touched the lives of everybody, some more than others. His name, unfortunately, has been spoken in every public building, school, city hall, state capitol, and yes, even the White House. I can't is survived by his brothers and sister. I can, I will, and I am going to right away. They are not as well known as their famous relative, but perhaps someday, with your help, they will make an even bigger mark on the world. May I can't rest in peace, and may everyone present pick up their lives and move forward in his absence. Amen. That was her prayer. How about having an I can't funeral like that? Innovative fourth grade teacher did. How cool is that? That phrase was put in its final resting place, making friends with its brothers and sister. I can, I will, and I'm going to do it right away, or I'm going to do it now. Jesus, the master teacher, said to the man he had just healed, "Go forward and sin no more." Go forth and sin no more. Go forth. So what if we break it down to our description? Go forth and release your belief that you're separate in nature from God and from God's law. Go forth and release that. That's what he meant. So, my friends, this morning, I offer the same counsel. Go forth and sin no more. Sin no more. And that way, you will most definitely hit the bullseye, your dreams, your desires, hold your vision, and be that golden thread in this tapestry of life that is fully expressing, making it into this beautiful cloth of oneness, which we are all a part of anyway. And so it is. So it is.